Want to start with the relationship with my mom and just what my soul purpose is. I feel like I'm missing some messages. What my agreement was when I came here.
Really feels like what she's being labeled as like a challenger in your life. We make agreements of what type of relationships we're going to have. The challengers help our souls evolve and learn lessons.
I adore her. I just don't adore the actions. And I've had to set a boundary with her. She doesn't respect the boundaries and she doesn't want to do the work to restore the relationship.
Your lesson is learning to speak your truth even when people don't like it. I'm seeing like a tree just so rooted into the ground that no storm is going to uproot it. Your mom feels like the biggest storm that could come through.
I've always kind of been that out of the box thinker, doing things that don't make sense to people. This holistic health evolution that I've gone through over the last 25 years that didn't make sense.
You really have landed on and kind of where you're supposed to be in this relationship. So it's supposed to feel uncomfortable because it's harder to step outside the box.
I think I finally have gotten to this point of just accepting who she is and where she is in her journey, but how to handle that forward because I don't want to step back into the chaos, but I also don't want to cut her off.
Hi, I'm Sam Franklin, intuitive, healer, and psychotherapist. In this podcast, you'll hear real life sessions where I open the Akashic Records, connect with angels, offer energy healing, and guide my guests through deep soul transformation. Each session begins by opening the Akashic Records, or the energetic library of the soul, to receive clarity and guidance. Next, I set sacred intentions and invite loving support from the angels, spirit guides, ancestors, and all other spirits who are here for the highest good and healing. Throughout these sessions, I explore soul purpose, soul connections, and soul gifts. I also examine the deeper roots of challenges, including past life lessons and how they shape the present, to help my guests reconnect with their truth and step into the life they're meant for. Whether you're here out of curiosity or on your own healing journey, I invite you to listen with an open heart. You might just hear something your soul's been waiting for. Let's dive in. All right. So welcome, Michelle. I'm
Thank you.
excited to jump into things. First, we'll start with opening your records, setting some intentions, and then we'll dive in. So while I do that, feel free to, if you want, and close your eyes, but just go inward and kind of start grounding yourself. Take some deep breaths. It helps to just kind of calm the energy, if you will. As we take some deep breaths here, I'll open up your records in my mind, which just looks like a book opening in my mind. And then I'll call in any angels, spirit guides, loved ones, any spiritual beings that want to come in for Michelle's highest good, for healing and guidance for her, for the collective's highest good. Any messages that need to be shared today, we welcome in. Thank you. Okay. Well, let's jump into things. So where do you want to start?
I want to start with the relationship with my mom and just what my soul purpose is. I feel like I'm missing some messages, what
Mm-hmm.
my agreement was when I came here, what it was I came to do,
Mm-hmm.
and then maybe move into the the problems I've had with digestion, now this new back issue. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I feel like it's all connected.
Okay. Yeah. So what I'll do is I'll kind of tune into your relationship with your mom, see about any soul contracts and agreements, um, with understanding like some information may be limited because her records aren't open, but we'll see what we can get. So let me just take a moment here to channel things that move a little bit slower in the beginning. Well, first they're just starting me off with like, I don't want to say like an image of your mom, but just like an older woman representing your mom, because I don't know what she looks like. But the word crabby is coming through. I don't know if she ever shows up in like a crabby way, but that's kind of like the energy that they're showing me. Does that fit at all?
Crash, so she will be that way kind of under the radar towards me.
Mm-hmm.
But and towards certain people,
Mm-hmm.
she doesn't like what they're saying to her.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but as a general rule, she is a lovely woman, but she hides behind
Mm-hmm.
a facade.
Yeah, so that might be kind of what I call like our backstage, maybe
Mhm.
parts of ourselves that we don't tend to show the public, but can show up maybe from our wounded parts. Um, let me continue to tune into this relationship and the contracts before you came into this life. Really feels like what she's being labeled as like a challenger in your life. So we have people in our soul, people that we travel with, and we make agreements of what type of relationships we're going to have. And um, we get people who are supportive. So not that she's not supportive, but people who really like help us grow. And we tend to feel like those are easier relationships. There's just like it's pretty much about support. And then we have the challengers, and they can be really close people in our life, people that as a soul we love, even in human form we love, but they're there to really challenge us in a way to help our souls evolve and learn lessons. So that was like kind of the agreement there, and it feels like a reciprocal thing that both like your relationship was kind of meant to be challenging for each other. Um, and there's almost like an image of like the two of you holding hands like in a soul kind of way and being like, "You ready to do this?" Like, we ready to, but like remember that we still love each other on a soul level. How does that land so far?
Absolutely 100%. That is so true because I adore her. I just don't adore the actions, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I've had to set a boundary with her. She doesn't respect the boundaries and she doesn't want to do the work to restore or actually just resurrect the relationship, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And she doesn't like that I'm sticking to my boundaries.
Yeah, so that's part of the lesson that's coming through from for your perspective with this relationship is learning to speak your truth even when people don't like it, even when people don't understand it. I'm seeing like a tree just so rooted into the ground that no storm is gonna uproot it. So really knowing yourself on a very deep level and saying like sticking to your guns, that's kind of like the phrase that's coming through. That feels like I don't know if this is true, but your mom feels like the biggest storm that could come through and like potentially uproot it. Does that feel true at all?
So I think that that's what she wants. I mean, that's what it appears, because I'm disrupting the family system right now by, setting this boundary. So it doesn't just affect her, it affects 25 other people, um, just by extension. And so yeah, I mean, I've always kind of been that out of the box thinker, doing things that don't make sense to people, whether it be my diet, ex, um, you know, whatever it is. It's been like this holistic health evolution that I've gone through over the last 25 years that didn't make sense. And everybody thought I was, rigid or whatever. But just other ways that I think about, religion or spirituality or my viewpoints.
Yeah. So that's, I mean, you're kind of like hitting the nail on the head of what they're saying of like both of what you're supposed to learn from each other. So your lesson is to how to stay rooted in my truth, even when other people don't agree, don't understand. Hers is more around with your relationship is to think outside the box, to be able to look at new perspectives and new ways of being. That's going to stretch her comfort zone. And so you really have landed on and kind of where you're supposed to be in this relationship. So it's supposed to feel uncomfortable because for you it's and for a lot of people it's easier just to like go with the flow, be compliant, like just do what everyone else is doing. It's harder to step outside the box. And for her, especially if we focus on kind of her age at this point, we can get really rooted and stuck in our ways. And so thinking outside the box feels unsafe is really kind of what's coming through. So in a way, the energy, how it feels is you feel triggering to her because she's trying to live in a safe space of like, this is what I know, these are the rules, this is what I follow, and this feels like in control and that feels comfortable. Now all of a sudden here comes my daughter, this close relationship, and she's just like throwing the rules out and living outside the box, and it's kind of forcing her to look at things differently, and that feels like unsafe in her body, not that it's actually unsafe. And so that feels really triggering, and that feels like a lot of maybe where the behavior comes from. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it totally makes sense. Yeah. And if I explain it to her, I've explained it to her, 10 times, and she still comes back and I don't understand. I'll never understand this. And so it's been frustrating to me And I know frustrating for her. Um, and so I know that I have to get to a point, and I think I finally have gotten to this point of just accepting who she is and where she is in her journey, but how to handle that forward, because I don't want to step back into the chaos, but I also don't want to cut her off. So be interesting to know what that next step is,
Mhm. Yeah.
from
Mm. You kind
the
of see like,
Akashic record perspective, from
yeah,
the guides and all that.
yeah, yeah. Let me see like what would be good kind of forward, how to work with the relationship here that feels protective to you, but not harsh or isolating to your mom. There's this, let's try to describe the image. It's kind of like there's two of you, and as she's talking, there's almost like a filter here of like, can you create a filter to hear what she's saying through? So instead of it just being unfiltered and it hits you and it's like, oh, that was hurtful and that feels personal and all that stuff, like filter through the lens of her wounds, kind of seeing it when she's talking to you and something's kind of hitting home or it feels hard to hear. Think about, where is this coming from? Almost like if we draw like a graph with like whatever those map charts of like a bubble, like a circle, and then we do a line, and then that's connected to that, and that's connected to that. Almost thinking like, what are the root core wounds that these behaviors are coming from. So it goes back to her, it belongs to her, and it doesn't latch on to you and then gets into your wounds. Does that make sense?
Yeah, oh, yeah, it totally makes sense. I guess where I am struggling is that she wants us just to go back to quote unquote normal,
Mm-hmm.
like going to lunch and celebrating birthdays and Mother's Days and Christmas and Thanksgiving. And I'm always the one who, hosts and invites the family to come in and, all this stuff. And that's a lot of times, and the only times, well, not the only times, that the chaos ensues. And so, how do I continue to set my own boundary, not expecting her to change, um, and accepting her for who she is, but also letting her know that it's not okay to talk to me the way she does, and to,
Mm-hmm.
in a way that
One,
she can understand, because she still doesn't. She says, I don't think I'm that way. I don't
mm-hmm.
believe, basically, I don't believe you that I
Mm-hmm.
say those things or I do those things. But a lot of it is whenever she's under the influence of alcohol, so she doesn't remember.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One thing that's coming through is like to focus on, and when you're communicating these things of like what she can do, what you're willing to do. So instead of like, let's not do this, we're not going to do this celebration anymore, be like, I would love to go and grab coffee with you in the morning time, or whatever these things are. Kind of focus on where you're willing to show up in the relationship. And so that feels like that has more control because you can maybe control more of the environments or the situations, but it's stated in a way where it's like, I still want to spend time with you. Because when you're focused more on like, we're not going to do this and I don't want to do this and please don't do that, all she's hearing is like, no, 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 and push away. And um, it feels very rejecting. So if there's a way to kind of include of like, but I would love to blah 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 in this instead. So that's one thing. The other thing is around the alcohol piece specifically. Let me just kind of tune in with that. Couple things. One is like, are there places, environments, times of day, people that she tends to not drink around, or she tends to show up like, are there people that she's going to be like on her best behavior around where you feel like this feels manageable? Is there any of those types of environments or situations, people that like that tends to go better?
She's surrounded by a bunch of enablers.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the only real person that I could include in that would be my family, my immediate family, because she is on her best behavior for there, or or my sister, and her family,
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah,
know.
yeah. So it might be that there's more of those types of situations where you include at least one or two, however many people at the minimum you feel like would need to be there for her to be interacting with you in ways that feel safer.
Mhm.
Um, and then I'm also seeing this image of like a back being turned to someone. So kind of like an immediate disengagement of when she starts to show up in ways because the talking isn't working, right? Like it's not kind of
No.
clicking. So when it starts to happen, immediately turning away. Almost like what they're showing me is like when dogs get really, really excited to see you when they like when you first show up at someone's house, and it can feel cruel to like turn your back or to not engage until they're calm, but
Mhm.
it's something to just do. And then when they're calm, then you can engage of like, okay, now we're good. Otherwise, this is like you're biting me and this is all over the place and it's too much. It's kind of the same thing with people, and it can feel mean, but it really is a protection. And we're, I mean, you could look at it as like training your mom, but like maybe we don't word it like that, but it's a
Yeah.
way to show her like you're not gonna get my connection and my love. Not that you're like pushing her away, but like you're not gonna get that engagement when you're showing up in this way. And then really intentionally engage with her when she is showing up in positive ways. So maybe on some different levels, she starts to, in a way, be conditioned. I mean, we're not trying to control your mom, but that's, I know, how does
That
that
makes
sound?
complete sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as soon as you said that, that's how we trained our dog to not urinate on the floor every time somebody came home. You just kind of don't pay attention to her, and it worked.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yes, not engaging in the chaos and not getting frustrated myself, or feeling like I have to defend myself or say, why did you say that? Or just walking away or saying, I'm not playing this game today.
Yeah, the book Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents is coming up. That's really one that I've read. I recommend to a lot of people. I don't know if you've read that.
Adult children.
Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents.
Okay.
Uh what I really like about, and there's multiple books kind of in this series. I think it's by Lindsay Gibson. Um what I like about it is there are a lot of examples. It really puts it into a perspective that feels understandable of like what is it about my parents that feels hard to connect to or feels rejecting. A lot of it is an emotional unavailability. And then how do I deal with this? And one of the techniques that she talks about that's coming through right now as a message is observing the situation. Kind of helps take you outside of it and not take it so personally. So kind of being like, my mom's doing this. She's acting in this way. And when she acts in this way, I'm noticing that this other person is starting to get louder, or I'm noticing this in myself. Like you're narrating the situation. So it helps you just emotionally remove yourself just enough to be observing the situation instead of like being fully in it. And now you're hooked. Because
Hmm.
that's what those kind of parents do is they hook you. And
Hmm.
now you're a part of whatever's happening.
That makes complete and total sense. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's good.
And then the other thing that I'm seeing is in the moment, but also ongoing, the image is like you holding hands with your younger self. Like that's the part that's really getting hooked, right? The younger version of you. The adult self now, the Michelle now is wise and kind of knows all of these things. But the younger version is the one that's like, you're not seeing me, you don't hear me, you're not understanding me, um, you're rejecting me, this doesn't feel loving, right? And so that part really needs something in those moments. So that would be something to connect in with, almost like before you're about to hang out with your mom or have a phone conversation, or whatever, connecting with that younger part. See how she's doing. She might not be doing so well, knowing that you're about to go into that. See what she needs. Do some regulating, kind of like imagine her in your mind, or just kind of have a conversation and just tune into your body. Like, does it feel anxious? Does she feel angry? Does she want to start crying? Kind of soothe ourselves a lot. We can do that a lot of different ways. Then we go into the interaction. Notice when we get triggered. That's probably the younger part having a reaction. See if we can maintain that connection. Talk to that version of ourselves of like, I see you. I know you're angry. You have every right to be angry. That was not okay what she said. That was very hurtful, right? Give that validation that you're seeking in your mom, but she's never going to give you. Give that to yourself. And then afterwards, again, reconnect with your younger self. In the beginning, it's going to be a lot of work, but as time goes on, it'll be easier to kind of connect in with that younger version.
Okay, I can do that.
Mm-hmm.
she shows up a lot, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, I totally get that. My younger self has a lot of feelings when I'm like going home to my childhood place or um sometimes with certain people in my life, like sometimes with my parents, I have to really check in because if we don't check in, that part is just kind of like we're doing to that part what our parents or other people did to it, abandon
Mm,
it, not be there, not listen, invalidate it, be like, it's not that big of a deal. Why are you so upset? Like, we'll get through this. It really is just acknowledging, even if it feels super irrational, like a young child, of like, you're upset. Okay, I get that.
mhm. Okay, I can do that.
Yeah. Um, how is all of this feeling? Is there other stuff about your relationship with your mom that you would like to tap into?
Um, I can feel all this like in my head, like this
Mhm.
tingling
Mm,
um and almost like an expansion of my skull. It's kind of a strange thing. It's like I like it because I feel like it's really resonating with me.
mhm,
Um, I would really like to know also what my soul's purpose was for coming here. Because I feel like I've kind of quashed my creativity. I used to be this like whenever I was young, I danced and I would sing and I would go spend hours just listening to music by myself. I would chase rabbits and I would play with bugs and I mean, catch, daddy long legs and let them crawl all over me and stuff like that. And it's that part of me, like, where is she? Where did she go?
mhm. Yeah, there really feels like the word that's coming through is free spirit, just
Hmm.
as you kind of described that. Um, Let me just kind of see here what happened. The image is like a parent and really like kind of more mom figure coming through, although could have been another parent too. Just like this, like a young child and then like an adult self kind of pointing down and like in a very kind of critical, like how could you like shaming kind of way. And then I see just kind of like a curling up. So it feels like the younger version of yourself when she was able to just like fully be herself, the world wasn't telling her what to do or wasn't shaming her. She really just got to be expressive. And then the world started to come in and have opinions. And she started to shrink away. And it almost feels like this like little kind of trying to see like where it still exists in you. It's like little kind of light. It's almost like the right side of my chest into like also the solar plexus kind of here. Um, and she really kind of wants to come out to play. It feels like has life become maybe too a little bit too serious, or she's been a little bit too hard on herself. That's the feeling.
Yeah, so that's one of the things about myself that, I realized through this whole personal spiritual journey is that I had so many expectations of others, but really it was expectations of myself. And there was this idea of having to appear perfect and appear a certain way. Um, make sure you have your lipstick on, make sure that, you're dressed and you leave the house in a certain way for the world to see the outward beauty. Um, and when it was my dad who was very uh, verbally and physically abusive, but my mom stepped back and was kind of emotionally disconnected from it because she didn't want to, I don't know why. I mean, I can presume that she didn't want to get into the fray because she didn't want to get in trouble, kind of thing.
She didn't want to become the target,
Hmm.
but you have anger towards her for letting you be the target.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's funny because I was talking to somebody about that yesterday and I was like, well, I don't think I was angry. Like,
Mhm.
I was just hurt. She was like, well, or no, I said, I don't think I was hurt. I think I was just mad about it. And she's like, well, under anger is hurt. And I'm like, well, yeah, that makes sense,
Mhm.
So,
They can
and
go together. Hmm.
yeah, but I also don't have a whole lot of emotion. I'm very like this.
Hmm.
And I don't think that that's healthy, you know?
Yeah. The image that's coming through is like, um, show me a bag, but maybe let's choose a different one. Kind of like we can use the closet or something like that. Like everything's shoved in there. It's like bursting at the seams, basically. And so it's ready to just kind of bust open. And that maybe what I'm hearing can sometimes play a role in the reactivity with your mom or anyone else that might feel difficult in your life because all that stuff is underneath the surface. And so it's almost like a just a little poke, kind of like it can come out, right? So as like you kind of swim through is what they're saying, these emotions, like all the stuff that's underneath the surface. If we're looking at like an iceberg is what they're showing me, there's all this stuff underneath that. And as that kind of gets smaller and smaller, then when someone pokes, it's not like, it doesn't like things don't come busting out the seams, whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. And so, I've done a lot of energy work on myself. I've done a lot of, therapy, a lot of self-discovery. I feel like I've come so far, but I still feel like something is holding me back, like, from really expressing who I truly am.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that's got to be a fear of some sort. So kind of want to know,
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't ever felt like I couldn't be seen. I wasn't allowed to cry. I wasn't allowed to speak because it was like if I was getting in trouble or if I was crying or, whatever, my dad would tell me to stop crying. And whenever I would try to explain my position or, um, it was, you're talking back to me, stop talking back to me and just shut up and listen. So, yeah.
So what, so there's a couple things coming in. So I'm just going to try to focus on one at a time. Um, One is like when there's an emotion that's coming up because it wasn't heard and it wasn't seen and wasn't validated, there's almost this idea of like, what's the point? What's the
Mm,
point of feeling it? What's the point of sharing it? Because it's like, it's not going to go anywhere. No one's really going to listen. Like these are kind of like the old belief system. So it's like, just going to shove it away. The other thing is it feels like it's just not safe. It's just not safe to share the emotion. Um, because I'm going to get harmed in some way. Like I'm going to be rejected, I'm going to be criticized, maybe made fun of, or mocked or shamed. Um, and so it makes sense that all that stuff would stay underneath the surface. Then the last thing is like it almost feels like because your mom's still alive, but is your dad still alive?
he passed away almost 5 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so it almost feels like you're almost like waiting for your mom to pass to have permission to fully be yourself, but that you don't have to wait. But that's what it feels like. It's almost like just even if you weren't talking, just the fact that she's still physically here, um, it almost feels like, oh, I can't be myself. Like that feels like such a barrier and such a block.
That makes a lot of sense. Because of how I grew up and my entire family, they're all Bible believing Christians, and that's how I grew up, and that's what I steeped myself in for 30 years, and kind of pulled myself out of the church dogma and instead of religion, looking at God more from a spiritual standpoint, just. And so when I talk about these things, there will be some backlash from the entire family, not just even my side of the family, but my husband's side of the family,
Mm-hmm.
like what is she into?
Yeah, yeah. I think that I mean that's so common, especially when people come from religious backgrounds and they move away from that. There can be also a pain, kind of a loss of like of those relationships. People don't understand why you've left. They're still really in that. There might be judgment and things like that, and that can be really hurtful for the relationships. So there's a lot of like a theme that's coming up is like not feeling seen, not feeling heard, feeling misunderstood. And so sometimes that can mean that we have intentionally kept ourselves invisible in different ways to be safe. That could be to not be vulnerable. That could be to not share emotions. That could be sometimes physically, we might get um, we might get smaller in different ways to try to be invisible because that
Mhm.
feels safer. So there's a lot of different ways where like that becomes a safety mechanism, and then to be visible feels really scary, even though maybe at some point in our lives we want to be visible, whether it's like for a business or in our relationships. Those old wounds can kind of stay there. So I do feel like there's definitely a belief system and probably some things that could be like severed or cut or stuff like that.
How do we do that?
Yeah. Yeah. Let me just kind of see here what kind of cords might be cut. And then we can wrap up the session. Let me just see what would be the most important ones to be cut. One is with your dad, and it feels like this is interesting. It's almost like a huge like tunnel kind of. It's like really big. Like made of steel or something like that that just kind of needs to be cut. But that would be we might have to work a little bit differently with that because that would be pretty big to take out. So we might have to shift
Let
that.
me give you a little bit of insight. I don't think I told you this before, is that my mom got pregnant with me when she was 19,
Mm-hmm.
married my biological father, and I'm just now finding out that he was abusive. And
Mm-hmm.
so she left him, I think, when I was like 6 months old.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he gave up he gave me up for adoption to the man that I called my dad, that she married. Um, so she jumped from the frying pan into the fire, basically, you know. Um, and I tried on a number of occasions to reach out to my biological father, not for a relationship, but just kind of figure out the other side of the story. And he blocked. My husband was the one who had reached out to him. He blocked him, and
Mm-hmm.
he died in June of last year. And that was a weird loss, a weird feeling,
Mm-hmm.
because I'd never met him, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Um, but I'd been lied to about him forever,
Mm-hmm.
and it was all a big secret. So I felt like something was wrong with me. And then, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that might be why. I mean, that you're seeing this steel, tunnel because it's layered with two father figures.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let me just kind of tune into that. When I tune in kind of like to your biological father, it feels like a thin string that's like really distant and kind of held together with like these two small lights, one in him and one in you. So kind of like there's that soul connection, but there wasn't as much kind of developed
Mm,
there.
yeah, nothing.
Um, so and that feels like something that maybe doesn't need to be cut. It almost just kind of feel like it's neutral. Kind of it is
Okay,
what it is.
good.
And then the steel kind of um one feels more like the one that you call your dad. I mean, it's just so yeah. There's like I can't even focus on other chords. It's so big. So I'm gonna work through this. I'm gonna call on the
Okay.
angels to kind of walk me through, and I'm gonna witness the healing that they're gonna do, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
Okay. And then yeah, they'll just kind of take us basically on a ride and see how they want to work through this. And just you're welcome to close your eyes. You don't have to, but just tune in as I kind of walk you through what I'm witnessing of this angel healing and just, notice for yourself if there's any shifts and we can kind of touch on that after. Let's see. So the angels are kind of looking at it like, like in a hospital situation, if there was like a really big thing going through someone, like we don't want to just take it out because the person would like hemorrhage. So um see how they want to work through this. Okay, so it's okay to be cut through. So we're gonna cut through this steel thing and separate this stuff. We're gonna kind of focus on now what do we do because it's still in you. See how they can pull this out. So just shrinking it, but it's the core of it is really in the heart space is what they're showing me. So it's kind of shrunk to that. So it's pretty small now. Um, and they're just taking some time to kind of patch up the other stuff. A lot of it feels like it was in your stomach.
Mm,
Um, so they're just like almost showing like the skin looks like like shriveled kind of in a way. So they're just trying to like smooth things out. Um, there's like stitches kind of going down the front of you through your stomach to your waist. So we're just gonna kind of heal that, let those fall out, and try to see if we can smooth this out in your stomach. Okay. They're just kind of basically rubbing hand down torso just to kind of smooth things out. That feels better. That feels calmer, more settled. So we're just gonna go to the heart space, see what they want to do with that. They want to ask you, are you ready to release the past and also the wounds associated with your father? You're really ready to let him go, and that they need you to be honest. It's okay if you are completely, if you're not at all, if you're a mix.
Completely,
Okay.
completely.
Okay. Okay. So now they're just releasing it, pulling it out. Oh, and it kind of had like a really sharp point in there. And so now where it would bleed is like what they're showing is just a release of old wounds, like sadness, anger, shame, and regret. There's just so much there. And like thoughts like, why didn't you love me more? How could you treat me like that? Why did you do that? This wasn't fair. I didn't have a choice. This wasn't in my control. Like, you're a monster. Like, just all these different things coming up. We're just like releasing that. Archangel Raphael, who really is healing and compassionate and works with the heart, he's just going to be here with us, just letting these wounds kind of waterfall out of your heart space and then dumping them. Like, we don't need them anymore. It doesn't serve you. And as we release that, then they kind of almost like a patch or a band-aid, just kind of patch that up. I'll let that form into your skin, if you will. That patch is really about self-love more so than anything else. Like, can you love yourself and know that you are worthy, even though this man did all these things or treated you like that? That really it's about learning to love yourself and doesn't have as much to do about him. And so they're just, Raphael's giving you that gift of self-love. And then taking that through your heart all the way down into your stomach. There's just, it's almost like a blockage in your stomach. So we're just going to kind of have that self-love kind of cut through whatever's there, kind of warm it up, melt those things. Okay. What I'm hearing is that'd be good to like drink a lot of water. Like there, you're going to be releasing a lot. And so just kind of like a massage that you're, when we release things, if we don't drink enough water, our GI and our stomach isn't going to feel super great. So
Yeah.
um, that it's going to be released through that. There's a lot hanging out in your stomach, and so it's almost just like it's like swirling around. Still, it's going to take a little bit more time to kind of break things up and
Mm.
let it kind of move through you like liquid, because there was a lot blocking there. How was that? How are you feeling? What did you notice?
Um, well, everything that you were saying, I'm like, every word you said, I was like, yep, yep, yep. I was attaching re memories to, um, and regret because, he died holding my hand. And there was like 2 weeks where he was in hospice care at home at his house. And I was there every day cooking for him while he could still eat and caring for him. And I was there when he died, but we had this understanding of forgiveness. And I tried to tell him, like, I understand why you were the way you were. And he shut me down again because he didn't like seeing me cry, but I know he got it, like, so it was really a beautiful moment. But as you're saying these things, my heart, I mean, it's like I wish I had my Aura ring on because I'm sure that my heart rate is like I can feel my heart coming through my chest, but I also moved up to my throat chakra, to my throat
Mm-hmm.
area, and I could feel things moving around in my stomach.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I've had these digestive issues all my life. I mean, I still remember struggling even at 10 years old with constipation and just digestive issues. And it was always around conflict. And with this conflict with my mom, I've just really, it's really escalated. So, but I don't know if it's really about my mom, but more about my dad, you know?
Yeah. There's a lot to release as you to kind of continue this healing work after this would be really trying to let your emotions flow and kind of work through the past and the present.
Mhm.
Um, write stuff down about how you feel and then burn the paper or find another way to release it because the more you keep releasing your emotions, the less things will keep getting stuck. It just it just feels like there's a lot of gripping in the stomach, right? Like
Yeah.
that's you can definitely be tied to GI issues or constipation or things like that, just like a gripping. And then the throat really feels like it's time to kind of speak your truth, tell your story. If there's things that you've been hiding or haven't shared out loud with anyone, at least write it down for yourself.
Mhm.
You don't need to keep anyone's secrets anymore, is basically what I'm hearing.
Okay. Yeah, I just like feel so like this energy moving through me like crazy. You know, it was in my head. It's still in my head right here. I mean, when I touch it, it feels like,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just like all throughout here and down my arms,
Mm-hmm.
in my stomach area. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So a lot would be to if you can do some gentle movement, like even just stretching, just to kind
mhm.
of help that movement of the energy. Be gentle with yourself after this. Like I said, drink lots of water, eat nourishing things. And it might take a day or two or a few days to kind of work through stuff. We released a lot. So you
Mhm.
definitely might feel that. And that can look like GI issues, can look like headaches, but it'll balance itself out once the energy kind of moves.
So, does my back injury have anything to do with this?
Yes, I'm trying to tune into the thought belief behind it. I'm just hearing like all that shit back there, all that stuff back there. Carrying the weight of the world, like guilt. It just feels a lot of guilt and shame. Um, that's not yours to carry. It doesn't feel like it's like someone either guilt tripped you or shamed you and like or their stuff latched onto you like maybe your mom's guilt or shame or something latched onto you and so that she doesn't have to hold on to it so it's been embedded in you so it's really important to kind of let that go and so kind of doing some if there's any like memories or thoughts or things that come up around like those emotions that are not yours to carry just like offering it up and saying like I release all of the guilt and shame that is not mine to carry anymore. I let it go. It's not serving me. Like really intentionally let it go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I suppress that a lot, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so just, which is exactly opposite of what I tell people to do. To do.
Yeah, it
So
happens.
yeah, I mean, well, I've done a good job, up until now, but I think that I finally came to a point where something I'm doing is not working. So that's good to know.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll close up records. Obviously, there's still, we could explore all day. Let me just see if there's any last messages here before we wrap things up. No, we feel like that's good for now. I'm gonna close up the records, which looks like a book closing in my mind. Gonna have Archangel Michael come in and lovingly cut energy cords between us. Just looks like a rope being cut. Separate our energy out. So we just take our own energy with us. It's gonna wrap you in a bubble of light, love, and protection and healing. Give it a color. Yours is red, which associated with the root chakra. So really grounded in your truth, grounded in who you are. And the more you ground, the easier it will be to release whatever it is that you need to release. So
So are you speaking, so when you say the more I ground, I mean, is that like literally physically grounding outside or
it could
combination?
be anything. It could be anything that you feel rooted in your like grounded in your body, like you're really in your body. It could be connected to the earth. It could be rooted in your truth, knowing who you are. Any way that you can really ground into you and your body, that will really help.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This has
Yeah.
been very eye-opening and insightful and enlightening and also affirming,
Mhm.
because a lot of things you were saying, I'm like, yep, I get it. Yeah. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate your vulnerability.
you are welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. If this conversation spoke to your soul, go ahead and like it, share it with someone you love, and subscribe to stay connected to more soul-led journeys. Your truth is sacred, your path matters, and you don't have to walk it alone. Until next time, be gentle with yourself.